Hey everyone, welcome back to the Spot for Fantasy Footballers. I'm Asa Rehman, and this is the first draft format focused video on the channel for the upcoming season. It is the reason why I started this channel in the first place, so I'm happy to get back to the draft content here today. And I'll be talking about one of the teams that I selected, going through some of the picks that I made and explaining why I made those selections, as well as revealing some players that I think you should avoid if you haven't had your draft yet. I'll also be breaking out my first Waiver 11 for the new season, so you don't want to miss that. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. It is the spot for fantasy footballers, especially those in fantasy draft leagues. Okay, we'll get to the Waiver 11 in a moment. That's where I pick the best players available on waivers in one of my draft leagues. First, let's go through the draft itself. Did this one about a week ago. Let's see how it played out. So here's a recap of the draft. That's what you're seeing on the screen there. And I'm just going to go through the first 7 rounds or so and I'll quickly tell you what you're seeing on the screen. So that first column next to the player is the draft rank that they had entering the draft. So Mo Salah was ranked 2nd overall. The next column shows the round that they were selected in, and then the pick in that round. That's the third column. The pick within the rounds that they were selected. Fourth column shows the manager that selected them. My initials are AR, so I had the 3rd overall pick. Salah went first, Kane second, Bruno Fernandes is who I selected with that 3rd overall pick, and that's generally the top 3 that have been going. Gets a little bit interesting after that, mostly because of the Kevin De Bruyne injury. They selected him. The person with the 4th overall pick went to De Bruyne, and I don't fault him for it. I think that the player's just too talented to pass up at that spot. So a decent pick in my opinion. Let's see. And then it does get interesting after that. I have Son rated higher than Mane, but I understand that they're pretty close. The Trent Alexander-Arnold selection is always interesting no matter where he goes, because you want to jump on him. He's definitely better than all the other defenders, but at what stage, right? The midfielders go, it thins out throughout the midfield, you'll see in this draft, so it gets pretty tricky. You want a stud with your first pick, and at least you feel like you're getting that with Trent. So I understand that selection. 7th overall for a Trent Alexander-Arnold. Another interesting pick on this screen is the Timo Werner is the 2nd forward taken after Kane, and he was selected with the first pick in the 2nd round. And it's hard to believe that Timo would be the 2nd forward taken. And you can see that Aubameyang went after him, and Jamie Vardy obviously went after him as well. There's a bit of a run for forwards after that. Firmino, I think that's too high for me. 2nd round, 6th overall. My friends and family are watching this, so they're obviously going to feel like I'm sliding. But I made some mistakes in this draft as well. The next selection, a clear mistake of mine. So my 2nd pick was Marcus Rashford there, and I should not have done that. I don't believe in taking injured players, especially if they're missing a significant amount of time like he is expected to. So should have done that differently. Other options that were available, Patrick Bamford, Michael Antonio, pretty good picks. I don't know if I would have gone Lacazette at that stage, but you can see the forwards go. So that's why with my 3rd pick, I took Edinson Cavani, and I do like that. But looking back at the players here, and the fact that I took Rashford and Cavani and Havertz was sitting there, I could have gone, essentially, I probably would have gone Havertz, then Cavani, or Cavani and Havertz. I had both of those, felt a little bit better about things. Anyway, still feel like I have a decent team. We'll get a look at it in a moment. That's where Danny Ings goes as well. So you see that run of forwards. And this is probably going to happen in your draft as well, where you have a lot of the midfielders go early, and then the forwards will go in a row. And you need to get one. You need a stud midfielder and a forward. And then you can get cute after that. But you need those two to kind of build your team around. Now we get into the 3rd round. We're well into the 3rd round here, 3rd and 4th round. And this is where you can find some value. This is where you get players that you like, your preference players, if you will. And I love Mason Mount at this spot. I think that's a pretty good pick because he's going to play. There's so many question marks with Chelsea's lineup with Thomas Tuchel from week to week, but you know that Mount's going to be part of their attack, so I think that's pretty good. Havertz, huge upside, obviously. Timo Werner, huge upside. And, you want those players, obviously, but Mason Mount's going after both of them. I think that's pretty good value at this stage. 4th round for Mason Mount. So that's not a bad pick in my mind. And after that, it gets really interesting. I think Ian Achos could be in for a good season. And my next pick ended up taking Christian Pulisic, and I like the player. We just talked about not knowing what to expect with that Chelsea lineup, but Hakim Ziyech goes down. He's injured. Who knows how long he'll be out for, and he's generally going to get injured or be injured throughout the season at certain stages. So is Pulisic. So, you consider that, but you still don't want to pass up the talent. So I like the fact that I was able to get him in the 4th round, 8th overall, or 8th pick in the 4th round. And then so you got some defenders starting to go now as well. Ben Chilwell. And that's where I took Jota, actually. I like the fact that I was able to get Jota after the Pulisic pick. So this is the area of the draft that I did enjoy. I was looking, Jota was sitting there. I was looking at Van Dijk. I'll be honest, I was looking at Van Dijk with that in that spot because I haven't picked any defenders yet. I don't think I needed to, but I do think Van Dijk, and this is where he's going. This is interesting. I think this is amazing value because Van Dijk was right there with Trent Alexander-Arnold, maybe just after him, going into last year's draft. So you were looking at those guys in that 1st, 2nd round range. Van Dijk coming off an injury, sure, but the talent is still there. So if you're able to pick this guy up in the 4th, 5th round, I think that's tremendous value. So yeah, I mean, I think Jota was just a good pick for me at that stage, but Van Dijk would have been nice as well. We'll see if I regret that one. St. Max going here as well. Another player I really like going into the season. Mixed reviews on St. Max, really, but I'm excited for what he brings to the table. He missed a lot of time last year in Newcastle, but just tremendous talent. Obviously, Ruben Diaz going here as well. So this is getting close to the middle of the draft. Now, Luka Dean. So you get some defenders being taken. Hakim Ziyech as well in the 6th round. Paul Pogba, Luke Shaw. So this is one. Shaw went just before my pick, and I had him circled. I really wanted Luke Shaw, but this is how the draft goes, right? You have your eyes set on somebody. You want to pick him. You're ready to pick him. You're just about to pull the trigger, and then sure enough, he goes just before you. I decided to pick up a forward, Chris Wood, with Burnley, mostly because I think it really thins out after that, and I just wanted another forward that I felt was playing, because it gets really tough. You don't want to be playing the waiver wire for forwards unless you're confident you can get Lukaku, which is great if you can, but otherwise it can get really tough. So this is when, midfielders, defenders are taking Wan-Bissaka there as well. And this might be the first goalkeeper taken, Ederson. So people starting to fill out their rosters at this stage. And we'll stop it there. That's 7 rounds. Just getting into the 8th round there. So we'll pause it there and we'll get a look at my lineup. So here is the full 15. And I ended up taking Alphonse Areola and Dean Henderson as my 2 goalkeepers, 2 question marks. So that's not great. I'm hoping that I get a clear starter out of those 2. And Rashford, that's the other one that I'm regretting a little bit. But the rest of it, I'm happy with. I like that I got Pulisic, Cavani, Jota, Fernandes. Dwight McNeil, not bad as well. I'm excited for what he can bring to the table. And he was a later pick, so he's obviously one of my later midfielders. My last midfielder that I selected, so that's not bad. At least I know he's going to play and be a part of their attack. So I'll take that at that stage over a player that I'm unsure if they're going to see enough of the pitch. Maguire, Pereira, Cresswell, Thiago. I'm okay with that. Yeremina coming off the bench. I think I already have a bid in for somebody. So I might be changing one of those as well. Joe Linton is changeable as well, but that's what I was talking about with those forwards. You want to get at least a couple that you feel confident in, because that last pick, and you're probably going to be playing the waiver wire with that 3rd selection, that 3rd forward, and you want to have the ability to go with some guys there or have someone that can contribute, because there's a good chance that someone's going to get injured. You're going to deal with some injuries as well throughout the season. So that's what I'm dealing with right now. I'm probably going to try to trade Rashford. We'll see how that works out. There it is, the Waiver 11, the first Waiver 11 of the new season, the Game Week 1 Waiver 11. And last season, I should say, I revealed these players one by one, but then I looked back at the video analytics and it showed that everybody was just skipping ahead to the end to see the full lineup. So I'm showing it all there for you. You can see everyone that I picked in the Waiver 11, including the bench, and it starts with my goalkeeper, Tim Krul. I was actually pretty happy with that pick. He's available on waivers. I think he will start with Norwich, and I think that I love his ability to stop penalties. If they do give up a penalty, he stops it for me. Bonus points for me. So I'll roll the dice with Tim Krul in this waiver 11. Roman Saiz, Hector Bellerin, and then the man Tsimikas. Everyone talking about him in the FPL community now. He's available on waivers. I think a lot of people, if they had their draft already, trying to pick him up. So he's probably going to be one of the most coveted players on waivers heading into Game Week 1. Craig Dawson rounds out my starting 4 defenders. Pascal Gross, Anwar El Ghazi. Really liked him in spurts last season. So if he's starting, I am excited about what El Ghazi can do. Adama Traore as well, another one. If these players are starting, I actually like those 4 midfielders now. I'm looking at them. Gross, El Ghazi, Traore, and Willock. 4 players that I think can produce if they're on the pitch. Strikers always tricky, but Jordan Ayew and Ashley Barnes, I think they'll play, so I'm pleased with that. Carl Darlow, don't know if he's going to start, but this is what you're dealing with when you're picking away for 11. Matthew Lowton, John McGinn, and Marcus Force round out my bench. Force actually an interesting story. Everyone talking about Tony, obviously at Brentford, but Force scored 10 goals in limited time last year, so he's a cool pickup in a draft format where you can maybe pick up a player stash and see what happens. So Force is a player I'll be keeping an eye on this season, and that is the first Waiver 11. Okay, that wraps up the first fantasy draft focused video for the upcoming season, the 2021-2022 season. I hope you learned something from this video. Let me know what you think. Give it in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter at @thespot4ff. And if you want to join a league, if you're thinking we should start a league at the Spot and do a draft just before the season kicks off, let me know in the comments as well. Well, enjoy the rest of your week, your weekend, whatever you're doing, do it safely. Thanks so much for hanging out at the Spot.